Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
Deep in the forgotten jungles of Guatemala, a sealed tomb was discovered untouched for over 1,000 years. Inside a jade mask of a storm god, bones carved with forbidden glyphs, and the name of a king history tried to erase Itzam Kokaj Bahlam. Who was he? Why was he buried in silence, and what power did he once hold? What archaeologists uncovered could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the Maya. This is not just a discovery, it's a message from the past, and it's finally being heard. Watch to the end to uncover the truth that lay hidden beneath the trees. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more untold stories of ancient civilizations. The hidden tomb beneath the jungle. Imagine standing in the middle of an unbroken jungle, vines coiled around ancient stones, howler monkeys echoing through the canopy, and not realizing that just a few feet below you, untouched for over 1,000 years, lies the tomb of a forgotten Maya king. This wasn't fiction. It was 2022, and it was real. Northeastern Guatemala is no stranger to mystery. The Petén region is dense, humid, and layered with centuries of overgrowth that hides more than just wildlife. Beneath this blanket of green lies the ruins of a once great civilization, the Maya. Over the years, hundreds of pyramids, temples, and city complexes have been swallowed by jungle, becoming nearly invisible even from the sky. But one place had remained particularly elusive: Xochiquitam, a name barely mentioned in colonial records and almost absent from modern archaeological maps. Some called it a lost place. Explorers had stumbled across fragments of carved stone here, a low mound there, but no one imagined that something intact could have survived there. Not until a new generation of tools arrived. At the center of this rediscovery was Dr. Francisco Estrada Belli, a seasoned archaeologist from Tulane University. Fluent in both ancient glyphs and modern digital mapping, Estrada Belli was part of a growing movement to combine traditional fieldwork with cutting-edge technology. Together with a team of epigraphers, ceramicists, and LiDAR specialists, he believed that Xochiquitam held secrets waiting to be unearthed, not by chance, but by precision. They weren't treasure hunters. They were storytellers armed with science. But how do you search for something hidden under an unforgiving jungle canopy in a place looters have already tried to rob and where even satellite imagery fails? Every year the team faced the same dilemma. The jungle kept winning. The terrain was too dense, the ruins too subtle, the risks too high. And worst of all, the human threat looters had already carved shallow tunnels into mounds across the region, ripping out artifacts and destroying context for future generations. The question wasn't just how to find a tomb, it was how to find it before it disappeared forever. Then came the breakthrough. Using LiDAR light detection and ranging a technique involving laser pulses from aircraft to map-ground structures through vegetation, the team scanned a wide area near Xochiquitam. The data was processed over weeks, and slowly strange anomalies emerged, faint outlines of a rectangular base beneath what appeared to be a pyramid, unusually aligned stonework, and what looked like the start of a corridor. Cross-referencing this with older topographical sketches and aerial photos, Estrada Belli saw something his predecessors missed: a mound that wasn't entirely natural. On foot, the team hiked through the terrain and found the site. Half covered in roots and moss, the structure looked like nothing at first, but beneath it, they discovered what appeared to be the remnants of a tunnel, an old looter's path. It extended just a few feet inside the mound before ending at a wall of cut stone. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The wall was sealed tight and dry, untouched by weather or time. There were no signs of intrusion, no shattered stone, no scattered debris. If what lay behind it was truly undisturbed, it could be the most pristine Maya royal tomb uncovered in decades. For a few moments, the team stood in silence. They realized the looters had stopped just inches from history. They'd come within arm's reach of something sacred and then walked away. Now it was up to the archaeologists to do what no one else had done, open the door with care. Rather than forcing entry, the team began a slow, systematic excavation. Digital mapping tools were set up to record every centimeter. Cameras were mounted to capture 360-degree scans. Drones hovered for overhead imaging. Nothing would be left undocumented. They gently cleared soil and roots, exposing the outer layer of the stone wall. As they removed each layer, they found no signs of collapse or disturbance, a good omen. When the final stone was removed, it revealed not a passage, but darkness, and then space. A hollow. Behind the wall was a small rectangular chamber. The ceiling had partially collapsed centuries ago, but beyond the rubble there were glimmers. Faint but unmistakable, a polished surface, the curve of a vessel, and something green. Jade. The team had found it, a royal tomb sealed silent and sacred. Inside were artifacts so well preserved they seemed to defy time. A mosaic jade mask, carved human bones, ceramic vessels, and soon a name that hadn't been spoken aloud for over a millennium. But who did this tomb belong to, and why had it remained untouched while so many others had been plundered? The answers would come, but first the chamber had to be explored inch by inch. In Chapter 2, the sealed tomb is finally entered, and what lies within will challenge everything we thought we knew about Maya royalty. The royal chamber. No one reached. They were just inches away. The looters, digging blindly through stone and soil, had stopped mere steps from something that hadn't been touched in over 1,000 years. Behind that final wall was a secret one that would silence even the most seasoned archaeologists. As dawn broke over the jungle canopy, the excavation site glowed with soft orange light. The entrance to the tomb had been cleared, the outer debris swept away, and the air inside the newly opened chamber was still heavy with ancient dust and mystery. The tomb cut into the base of a once-hidden pyramid was unlike anything the team had ever seen. Though the ceiling had partially collapsed, the interior was surprisingly intact. There were no signs of looting, no displaced artifacts, no footprints in the dust. It was as if time itself had paused at the moment of burial. Dr. Francisco Estrada Belli led the team inside. With him were specialists from various institutions, epigraphers trained to read Mayan glyphs, ceramic analysts, bone experts, and digital documentation technicians. Each person had a role, and each understood the weight of what they were about to uncover. For them, this wasn't just a burial site, it was a message in a bottle sealed for centuries and finally opened. The challenge was enormous, how to document and preserve every detail without disturbing the delicate balance inside. One wrong move could collapse a corner of the chamber. One careless touch could smear a glyph or crack a ceramic vessel. And then there was the spiritual weight. This was a sacred space crafted with meaning, meant to protect the soul of a ruler through eternity. They had to move with both science and reverence. Bit by bit, the chamber revealed itself. Near the center lay the broken remains of a human skeleton, fragile but mostly complete. The bones had been arranged with intention suggesting ritual care. Near the skull, the team discovered the first major artifact, a fragmented mosaic jade mask. Its green tiles had scattered during the ceiling collapse, but as they were recovered, a pattern began to emerge. The mask's design, stylized, sharp, regal, resembled depictions of a storm god. In Maya mythology, storm deities were symbols of chaos and transformation. To be buried with such a mask could only mean one thing: power, divine favor, and a journey to the afterlife as something more than mortal. Beside the mask, something even stranger, a carved human femur bone, and not just carved, but inscribed with Mayan glyphs. The glyphs were painstakingly etched, perhaps by a royal scribe. They spoke of lineage of kingship and of a name Itsam Kokaj Bahlam. a name previously unknown in Mayan dynastic records. More artifacts began to surface, a cluster of spondylus shells, their deep orange and pink hues untouched by time. In Maya society, these shells were more than decorations. They were currency offerings and symbols of wealth. Their presence in the tomb confirmed its royal nature. On stone shelves along the side walls, ceramic vessels rested in organized rows. Their designs were simple but elegant. Some showed traces of dark residue. The team suspected chocolate, a sacred drink of the nobility. Later, chemical analysis would confirm this. As the pieces came together, one truth became clear: this was not just a tomb. It was a stage for rebirth. Every object had meaning. The mask divinity, the bone inscription's legacy, the shells and vessels' sustenance for the journey beyond death. But one detail stood out. The precise arrangement of the artifacts followed a pattern seen in other royal burials, but with subtle variations. Almost like someone had followed a known ritual, but adapted it for a forgotten king. Was this ruler part of a hidden dynasty, a breakaway line, or someone erased from history? The team began to theorize, could this tomb belong to a royal figure deliberately excluded from the historical record? Realizing the importance, the team began a full 3D documentation of the chamber. Each object was laser scanned, photographed, and geotagged. No artifact was moved until it had been digitally preserved in its original position. This wasn't just preservation, it was time travel by data. The chamber's walls, made of local limestone, were scanned for tool marks. The construction style, while crude in some places, was stable. And the fact that the looters had stopped so close without breaking through was a miracle. The tomb's untouched state offered researchers a baseline, a chance to study Maya funerary practice in its purest form. But with every answer came a deeper question. Why had Itsam Kokaj Bahlam never appeared in previous dynastic lists? Why did the mask depict a storm god when most rulers were buried with sun or maize iconography? Was this king part of a suppressed lineage, or perhaps someone who tried to defy the order of his time? In the next chapter, the focus turns from the tomb to the artifacts themselves, and what their symbols, inscriptions, and hidden chemistry might reveal about a forgotten power that once ruled the jungle. Secrets within the artifacts. A jade mask with the face of a storm god. Bones etched with the name of a ruler lost to time. Shells from distant seas. Chocolate residue in clay pots. These weren't just objects, they were code, and it was time to start decoding. With the tomb now safely mapped and sealed from environmental exposure, the team shifted focus from excavation to analysis. Each artifact recovered from the royal chamber was carefully packed, labeled, and transported to temporary field labs under climate-controlled tents set up nearby. This stage, the interpretation phase, was where mystery became history, where objects transformed into language, where silence finally began to speak. Leading the interpretive charge was a multidisciplinary team. Dr. Beatriz Moreno, a Maya epigrapher fluent in hieroglyphs no one else could read. Dr. Thomas Ng, an expert in ancient residues and food chemistry. And Dr. Celia Rojas, a symbolic anthropologist specializing in Mesoamerican cosmology. Together with Estrada Belli, they formed a coalition of minds ready to reconstruct a world buried long ago. The biggest challenge, uncertainty. The name Itsam Kokaj Bahlam had never appeared in any codices or inscriptions from major Maya centers like Tikal Calakmul or Palenque. No known records linked him to royal bloodlines, yet everything inside the tomb, the wealth, the layout, the offerings screamed kingship. Who was this man? Why was his legacy erased? And why did the artifacts hint at beliefs not typical of his time? The pressure was immense. One wrong interpretation could mislead generations of scholars. The jade mask was the first to be reassembled. Piece by piece, its storm deity face emerged angular eyebrows, swirling cheek motifs, a mouth shaped like lightning. Dr. Rojas confirmed the likeness, a representation of Chak, the Maya god of rain and storms. Not a typical funerary icon for a king May's gods or sun deities were more common. Dr. Moreno studied the inscribed femur bone under magnification. The glyphs, though short, were powerful. One phrase referenced a divine house and a jaguar throne, both strong royal symbols. But one glyph caught her eye, a combination of signs indicating hidden lineage or house of the veiled one, a rare phrase appearing only once in inscriptions from a distant site near the Usumacinta River. At the same time, Dr. Ung worked on residue analysis. Using liquid chromatography, he tested the black deposits inside ceramic vessels. His results, traces of theobromine and caffeine, indicators of fermented cacao. He also found maize starch granules, suggesting a blend of ritual drinks. These beverages were once reserved for royal ceremonies and offerings to the gods, and the spondylus shells Dr. Rojas recognized their use in bloodletting rituals. Inscriptions on the tomb walls hinted that these shells may have been part of an initiation ceremony, one that linked blood, water, and thunder, invoking divine rebirth. Then came the breakthrough. Moreno matched a unique glyph on the femur bone with one from an obscure stela fragment found decades ago in a looted site known as Yaxuna. That glyph also named Itsam Kokaj Bahlam as the unseen ruler of the Storm Road. No further context was provided in the stela, but it hinted at something incredible, a shadow dynasty. The hypothesis began to take shape. Perhaps this ruler came from a breakaway lineage, a royal bloodline that once challenged Tikal's supremacy, but was erased from history when they lost. His burial was opulent but isolated. His name inscribed in bone, not stone. His mask a storm god, not a sun god. Everything about him whispered rebellion or exile. Armed with this context, the team re-evaluated the tomb. The architecture now seemed deliberate, hastily sealed, not grandly walled. The absence of murals another clue. It was royal, yes, but secretive. The mask, once seen as decorative, now appeared symbolic of transformation, from ruler to deity, from exile to eternity. The femur inscription, once odd, was now revolutionary, a personal declaration carved on the bones of the dead. Even the placement of vessels and shells aligned with initiation rites rather than standard burials. Estrada Belli proposed a theory. Itsam Kokaj Bahlam was likely a ruler of a rival faction during a time of dynastic war. When his dynasty fell, he was buried far from power centers, honored by loyalists, but erased by history. The tomb was built in haste, but with reverence. It wasn't just a burial, it was resistance. The artifacts had spoken, and their message was clear. Beneath the jungle lay the story of a lost king, one whose existence had been denied, whose death had been hidden, but whose legacy had endured in jade, in bone, and in silence. In Chapter 4, the final threads come together. The tomb is compared with other Maya sites. The political implications unfold, and one haunting question remains: how many other rulers have been buried in silence, waiting for LiDAR to lift the veil? Rewriting the Maya legacy. It began as a search through jungle shadows. It became a discovery that echoed across centuries. But now, the tomb of Itsam Kokaj Bahlam is doing something even greater, forcing scholars to question what we thought we knew about Maya history itself. The tomb had been sealed for over 1,000 years. Now that its secrets were unearthed, the question shifted. What did this discovery mean for the broader picture of Maya civilization? The team returned to their home institutions, backed by hundreds of gigabytes of LiDAR data, 3D models, inscriptions, soil samples, and artifact records. Conferences were held, collaborations initiated, and most importantly, comparisons began. Because Xochitlam, once an unknown dot in the jungle, now stood as a key puzzle piece in a royal legacy we didn't even know was missing. Historians, epigraphers, and archaeologists from around the world joined the conversation. Among them was Dr. Diego Santiago from the University of Pennsylvania, who had spent 2 decades reconstructing dynastic lines from fragmented Maya records. Upon reviewing the glyphs from the femur bones, he proposed a shocking possibility. Itzam Kokaj Balam may have once been a junior prince of Tikal, exiled during a violent power struggle. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Cruz, a political anthropologist from UNAM in Mexico, added context from the highlands, the storm god iconography. She argued wasn't random. It was emblematic of transformation through chaos, suggesting that this ruler's followers saw his fall not as defeat, but divine ascension. Together, these voices began rewriting the king's forgotten chapter. The central tension now lay between traditional dynastic narratives and new disruptive evidence. Until this discovery, Maya rulership had been viewed largely through the lens of monumental inscriptions at dominant city-states like Tikal Calakmul and Palenque. Their carved stelae recorded victories, accessions, divine rituals, and conquests. But what if that history had been curated not complete, but political? The Xochquitum tomb wasn't just an isolated burial. It was evidence of a deliberate omission, a royal figure erased from stone, remembered only in bone. Could it be that Maya history, like all histories, had been written by the victors? As comparisons grew, patterns emerged. The tomb's layout, ritual sequence, and artifact types aligned closely with known royal burials from the late Classic period, 250 to 600 CE. Yet, several details were unique. The absence of a dedicatory stela outside the tomb, the use of a storm god mask instead of the maize or solar deities, the symbolic use of spondylus shells in a radial offering pattern, and, most notably, the personalized inscriptions carved into human bone rather than stone or pottery. These elements suggested a funerary culture that was both elite and subversive. One scholar described it as royal but hidden. The site also revealed additional clues. Outside the tomb, a circular stone alignment with ochre pigment was identified, likely used for ceremonial gatherings or community rites. In soil samples nearby, high phosphorus and nitrogen levels suggested repeated feasting or offerings, a ritual landscape, not just a grave. Even fragments of local bird feathers, possibly from Quetzal or Motmot species, were discovered near a tree root cluster. These pointed to fertility rites or sacred symbolism tied to the world tree, the axis mundi, in Maya cosmology. Every new piece reinforced the idea that Itzam Kokaj Balam was not just remembered, he was venerated in secret. Then another twist, a separate team working deep in the Maya Biosphere Reserve, analyzing old LiDAR scans from a nearby site, found similar structures, hidden pyramids with sealed corridors. Within weeks, a second tomb was discovered, smaller, but sharing architectural features with Xochquitum, a collapsed chamber, radial ceramic alignment, and inscriptions referring to the lightning lineage. Suddenly, Itzam Kokaj Balam wasn't alone. He was part of a larger shadowy network, a dynasty that had existed parallel to the known Maya kings, buried not in glory, but in secrecy, waiting for technology to bring them back to light. The storm god mask wasn't just a religious artifact. It was a symbol of rebellion and divine renewal. The implications were massive. The tomb at Xochquitum offered a baseline for a new class of elite burials, one disconnected from major ceremonial centers. It proved that Maya rulership extended beyond the big names etched into stone, and it highlighted the importance of oral traditions, lost settlements, and untold stories. Scholars began proposing new frameworks for interpreting dynastic fragmentation, exile rituals, and resistance iconography in Maya art. Museums requested scans and models. Exhibitions were planned. Even local communities began revitalizing oral histories about lost kings of the forest that had once been dismissed as folklore. Xochquitum had gone from myth to map and was now part of the official record. In the end, the tomb of Itsam Kokaj Bahlam was more than a burial. It was a mirror reflecting what had been forgotten, revealing what had been erased, and reminding us that history is never truly complete. The jungle had kept his secret for centuries. Now, through Laser's patience and reverence, the king speaks again. But perhaps the biggest question still lingers. How many more are still waiting just beneath the leaves? Thank you for staying with us until the very end. Some stories aren't just found in books, they're hidden in ruins, buried beneath centuries, or whispered through forgotten symbols. If this journey moved, you sparked your curiosity, or made you see the past in a new light, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications, because the next discovery may change everything. Share your thoughts or suggestions in the comments below. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you even better stories in the future. Thank you for being a part of this journey. We'll see you in the next Untold Story.